This is the kind of things that happen not just to any one person, but anyone.
Fire crews battle a massive house fire in a Garner neighborhood. Sky 5 shows the damage from above.
I'm tracking our next weather maker. I'll walk you through the days we can expect a stormy night and rainy morning.
State House Republican leaders are proposing bigger raises and deeper tax cuts than their counterparts in the Senate. Where are they going to find the money for that? We'll show you what they're proposing coming up.
What a scene today. Flames and smoke billowing from the roof of this home here in Wake County. Sky 5 over top as that fire was burning. A big fire in a big house right next to the Eagle Ridge Golf Club in Garner. Thank you for joining us at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty. Firefighters have been there on the scene on Cypern Court for hours now. So has WRAL's Aaron Thomas. You talk to some people nearby, they say this house went up in a matter of minutes. And a lot of people, we could tell from some of the footage, standing out there just in awe of it all.
Yeah, Dan, in fact, I can look to my right now and I see two people who are still standing here taking in the sight of all this damage. Now that we're closer, we can get a sense of the magnitude of what we're looking at. In fact, we see two people who are standing in front of this home who we believe that they actually live here, and this is the home that they lost. We can show you from Sky 5 just the intensity that we saw during the height of this fire. You can see all that smoke that was, it made it for hazy conditions at several neighboring homes, and we were also told that it reached areas as far as the town of Cary. These firefighters from all over really had an uphill battle when you think about some of the weather conditions, some of those hot spots that kept firing up, and of course seeing the flames during their most intense portions. A neighbor, they called 911 when they realized what happened, and they wanted to make sure that the folks who lived here, they were doing okay, but also it was just the flames that captured their attention. We know that those three people who are now displaced are receiving assistance from the American Red Cross from North Carolina region.
Well, it's a difficult event, and when things like this happen, a lot of times the people are just kind of lost. The Red Cross comes, I'm a volunteer, the rest of the guys here are volunteers. We give assistance, and the most important thing is if you know them, to give them assistance.
And assistance is important, and every little bit helps. You're now looking at a different view of this home from the back of it. You can just see how large this home is too, but a lot of extensive damage as it relates to seeing the roof burned off, and then a lot of those windows blown out from the intensity of this. Now, it's unclear if the three people who live here were home at the time of this fire, but we are told that they're okay. We haven't heard of any injuries at this point. While we still try to figure out a cause of the fire, investigators do say that it started in the attic. Aaron Thomas, WRAL News, live in Garner.
All right, Aaron, this is Brian Schrader in the WRAL Live Center, and new at 7 o'clock, we are working to learn more about a reported shooting that happened this afternoon in Smithfield. It's in the south part of Smithfield on K Drive, not too far from Brightleaf Boulevard. This is some new video just into the WRAL Live Center of that scene, and we are still working to find out exactly what happened here. Our photographer at the scene says that there was a vehicle with at least one bullet hole in it on Brightleaf Boulevard just outside of K Drive, and there you can see that bullet hole that appears to be in the back of that car. No word yet on injuries and no word on suspects. We'll continue to follow this through the night.
All right, Brian, thank you. Some big news in the weather department today. It is not a WRAL weather alert day. We were used to saying that all week last week with tons and tons of rain, but today was beautiful after a pretty nice weekend. But Kat, I have a feeling more rain might be not far away.
You're right in that, Dan. But the good news is, unlike last week where we had the chances pretty much every day, this week we can kind of narrow it down to one specific window, and that will be tomorrow night, overnight into early Wednesday. So here's the front that we're watching. That's going to bring the best chance of rain and storms. Out ahead of this, you've got small rain chances, a 20% chance tonight and a 20% chance during the day tomorrow. But the best storm chance is actually going to come midnight through about 7 a.m. Wednesday morning. There could be some strong to severe storms overnight, so that is a concern here. We never like overnight severe weather events. And then behind this system, we are actually going to cool down again as we head into Memorial Day weekend. There's a level 1 threat for severe weather both tomorrow and Wednesday. Just keep in mind it's for 2 days because this is really happening kind of between the 2 days where we have the storm threat. I'll walk you through what you need to know about this incoming weather system coming up.
Thank you, Kat. A man of faith who loved his family and wrestling. That's how one coach describes Dominic Vitale. He recently started working for Fort Bragg, but dedicated years at UNC Chapel Hill as a strength and conditioning coach. As WRAL's Destiny Patterson reports, a tragic accident took his life, but his impact lives on.
There's no way to know just how many times Dominic Vitale walked this campus, or just how many athletes he impacted.
Our athletes loved him, cherished him, especially the ones that were injured and needed extra help.
But even the things that can't be quantified.
Everyone that knew Nick loved him.
Can be explained by a feeling.
They loved his energy, they loved his charisma, and how he treated people.
As a strength and conditioning coach for Olympic sports at UNC, work never felt like work for Vitale.
He put his heart and effort in everything he did.
That's why Tony Ramos loved working alongside him.
He was the guy I leaned on to really help me make sure the guys were getting the training they needed.
He never really left.
Whether he was coming back for senior night to make sure he saw through his guys that he trained or that he, helped build up.
The only thing he loved more, his family.
He was very excited about his 2-year-old daughter, Emerson, and the relationship that they were creating together and watching her grow up.
But Vitale won't be here to do that. His life taken in a crash in Moore County. State troopers say a pickup truck hit him on his motorcycle as he was trying to turn left.
Just a lot of shock, a lot of disbelief, didn't think it was real.
The shock shared by athletes and coaches on social media. Even now, he's still here.
The blue shirt.
But instead of hanging out on the bench,
He's the one to the left.
he's hanging on the wall with a smile on his face.
He's left a legacy and a foundation.
A legacy and a foundation weighed by the lives he touched. Destiny Patterson, WRAL News.
Our thoughts with his wife and daughter tonight. The other driver in the crash faces 2 charges, including misdemeanor death by vehicle. A fundraiser for the family has already raised more than $80,000. If you would like to contribute, you can visit WRAL.com. All right, if you're just getting to the news tonight, let's roll through some of today's other big headlines. Here are 5 things you should know right now. An 18-year-old faces charges connected to the armed robberies at 2 Raleigh pharmacies. Police telling us that Zach St. Laurent robbed the CVS on Landmark Drive around 5 this morning. They say he had a gun and ran off with some prescription drugs. Investigators say the same person robbed the Walgreens on Wake Forest Road on Friday. They say he took 1,400 Xanax pills, again threatening staff with a gun. A Wake County family wants some answers after they say 911 put them on hold for several minutes while their daughter was having a severe allergic reaction. John and Heather Bucios say that this happened Saturday morning. They waited a couple minutes on the phone, then decided to just take their daughter to the hospital themselves. Raleigh Wake 911 telling WRAL that the call volume was spiked at the time, and the Bucios family went into the overflow queue. They say those calls will eventually be answered, but many do take some time. Roads are back open in Durham after a train hit a car on East Pettigrew Street. Take a look, Sky 5 over that scene just after 7 o'clock this morning. Police say everyone involved in the crash, fortunately, is expected to be okay. Durham police say the driver drove around the gate arms when they were down, then was hit by the train. Starting tomorrow, a Wake County intersection will close for the next 2 weeks. We're talking about the intersection here of Mile Plantation and Major Slades Road. They will be closed at 9 a.m. tomorrow and won't reopen until June 3rd. This closure is part of a project to realign that intersection there. And right now, Durham residents will learn whether or not their tax bills will go up next year. The city manager is expected to present the 2025-26 fiscal year budget. The county budget proposal includes a 3.5% tax rate increase. A final vote likely won't come for a few more weeks. State House lawmakers today unveiled their nearly $33 billion spending proposal for next year. Compared to the Senate, it's got larger raises for state employees and more widespread tax cuts. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie digs into some of the big differences.
This is just the 3rd step in a months-long process. Senate lawmakers and House lawmakers each roll out their own proposal for a spending plan. Then they have to come to a compromise that the governor is also willing to sign. So it's best to look at this as their negotiating position. House budget writers are starting with an average 8.7% raise for teachers over the next 2 years. That's more than double what the Senate proposed. Starting teacher pay would jump from $41,000 to $48,000 in the coming school year. State employees would see at least a 2.5% raise, also double what the Senate proposed. The House plan also includes some tax cuts that would have wider effects than the Senate's plan. Income taxes would drop by 0.25% next year as scheduled. The standard deduction would increase by $500 for single filers, $1,000 for joint filers. The first $5,000 you make in tips would be exempt from taxes, and the sales tax holiday for back-to-school shopping would come back in 2026. Representative Erin Perret is one of the House budget writers. She says their budget proposal is better than the Senate's for everyday workers.
This is something that we think is good for the people of North Carolina, particularly, like I said, those hardworking families who have children that are going to school. Those are extra expenses for them, and we want to provide that relief to those people who really need it.
The tax cuts and raises would be paid for in part by substantial cuts to spending on higher education, cutting thousands of vacant positions in state agencies, and eliminating any program related to diversity, equity, or inclusion. The House budget also sets aside more than $1 billion in savings reserve, as well as $700 million for Helene relief. House leaders say they plan to pass the budget by the end of the week to get those negotiations underway. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, Raleigh.
Thank you to Laura. Now, it is worth noting that $700 million for Helene relief is a bit shorter than what Governor Stein had requested. He sent a letter asking for $891 million for the recovery in western North Carolina. So what is behind that disparity? That's part of the conversation and our quote of the day right after the break. So back to that House budget proposal that just came out. It sets aside $700 million for Hurricane Helene relief in the North Carolina mountains. So far, the state has spent a lot more than that. And I want to take a second and show you some of the ways that that money is being spent. This is video from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This video is of them working at a debris removal site in Lake Lure. In all, they say that the contractors there have removed 6 million cubic yards of debris. That is a lot, right? It is enough to fill 800,000 school buses. But there's still a lot more work to be done. And it takes us to our quote of the day. The storm's impact is so much more than a number. That's what Governor Josh Stein wrote in a letter to the legislature today. He said that, and then he also brought up a number. Stein did talk about how the storm claimed lives and cherished communities, and he suggested spending another $891 million in relief. That's actually about $200 million more than what the House is proposing. I talked to WRAL state government reporter Will Duran about why the governor's number is higher. So, Will, when the governor asked for this amount of money, this $900 million, he also included some of the ways that he wants to see this money spent. Can you walk us through that real quick?
Yeah, Dan, Governor Stein wants this money to be really just spread out all across western North Carolina. $100 million here, $200 million there, going towards things like rebuilding people's houses, repairing damaged buildings in the area, helping people catch up on their utility bills or their mortgage payments that they may have missed. There's also a lot of money for economic development efforts in the area, and that could look like small business loans to help keep businesses afloat. Also, money for tourism marketing to help bring visitors back and really boost that tourism economy in western North Carolina.
You know, the impact of Helene is really kind of hard to wrap your head around for most people. Give us an idea of how this money, this amount, compares to what the state and federal government have already spent on the Helene aid.
That's a great question. And so far, the state has spent $1.6 billion on Helene aid. So an extra $900 million would bring it up to about $2.5 billion. And now, obviously, that is a large amount of money. But compared to the $60 billion that Helene caused in damage, it's really just a drop in the bucket. And we know that the federal government has been in charge historically of handling most disaster recovery efforts. However, Governor Stein says that he is concerned that the federal government money has really only been trickling in at a snail's pace, and that's why he wants the state to now kick in this extra funding.
Right. So is that uncertainty, Will, around the federal money kind of what is driving the governor's request here?
Yes, Governor Stein wrote a letter today to state lawmakers laying out some of these concerns. In that letter, he told them, quote, "I will continue to advocate for Western North Carolina to our federal partners. However, we suspect the burden will fall increasingly on state and local organizations." So we do know that the legislature is expected to fund some more Helene appropriations, whether that's part of the upcoming budget or a separate bill. The question now is just going to be whether or not they come close to this $900 million that Governor Stein has laid out today.
All right, we'll keep checking back in. Will Doran joining us from the legislative building. We appreciate that. And also, everyone at home, if you want to read through the specifics of Stein's request and the state budget negotiations, you can find that in the NC Capital section of WRAL.com. From the legislature to the weather patio out back, meteorologist Kat Campbell is there enjoying a pleasant evening. Kat.
It's gorgeous out here, Dan, and that sunset behind you at the DBAP is really nice. It's nice to see a quieter start to the week. It is mostly cloudy, 81, but the humidity has been low today. Dew points have been in the 50s, so it has really felt pretty great outside. The pollen count is high for grass pollen, so just keep that in mind for your outdoor plans. I do want to mention we've got a 20% chance of rain in the forecast tonight. We've been telling you about this for a couple days now. It's a small chance. We've got that one thunderstorm in Greensboro that we're watching right now. A couple of sprinkles down in Harnett County.
One last thing to talk about tonight, and it involves a topic we brought up a couple of weeks ago here at 7 o'clock, gators. Today, a sheriff's deputy at the North Carolina coast in Brunswick County fished up a little baby gator out of the community pool there. This is in Ocean Isle, at Ocean Isle Beach there. Deputy Whistler got out a net and returned that baby gator to a nearby waterway, which I'm sure made him very happy. Now, we've established this before, but we should say it again. Yes, alligators live in North Carolina, and that was literally the first line of a news release that we got from NC Wildlife today. They announced the launch of a new website called GatorWise. It links you to a map of North Carolina that shows you the areas where alligators are typically found, mostly the southeastern region of the state right near the coast. It also has this map of all the southern states where alligators can be found. Oklahoma? Really? Tornadoes and alligators. Yikes. So the GatorWise website also has tips for how to deal with alligators, and the number one rule:
don't feed alligators. That's like the number one rule.
Don't feed them. I mean, it's that simple. Don't feed them, and then, they won't try to eat stuff they shouldn't. You know what I mean? So just don't do it. Like he said, it's the number one rule. Thanks for making WRAL your choice for local news. Our next newscast is at 10 o'clock on Fox 50, at 11 o'clock on WRAL. How about this sunset? Take a look at that. Very nice. Have a great evening. Thanks for being with us.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.